The time, 13:47 hours. A silent, coordinated spearhead of 7 Ukrainian UJ-26 Beaver drones pierced the northwestern sky, their course set for a high-priority Russian military outpost, Kursk Airfield. This wasn't a standard bombing run. It was a decapitation strike. Their targets were the Russian light aircraft, the infamous drone hunters, modified with door-mounted machine guns, whose sole purpose was eliminating Ukrainian reconnaissance units. The mission plan was executed with mechanical precision, the flight path clear, until they crossed the invisible, highly defended perimeter near Tokmak. Deep within the Buk M3 command post, a radar operator 6 hours into a monotonous watch, staring at an empty sky, saw his world explode into a violent eruption of contacts. 7 distinct traces materialized 42 kilometers out, scattered across 2 kilometers of airspace, moving in no formal pattern. They were identical, slow-crawling blips, coasting southeast at a deliberate 180 kilometers per hour. His hand instinctively froze above the engagement switch. Something was wrong. The composite construction of these drones was the source of his terror. Unlike reflective aluminum airframes, these were molded from carbon fiber and high-density plastic, materials that absorbed radar energy, refusing to reflect it. At 42 kilometers, the returns were spectral flickering, merging and sometimes vanishing entirely between radar sweeps, pushing the very edge of detection. Then, the script flipped. 2 lead drones began a sudden, synchronized climb to 2,500 meters. This was not a response to a threat. It was a programmed action, triggered precisely at the 35-kilometer mark. Simultaneously, a third drone began an aggressive broadcast on 915 megahertz. This transmission was a digital illusion, a series of short, compressed data bursts designed to perfectly mimic the telemetry of a real intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, ISR, downlink. It was a ghost signal, meant to scream high-value target. SAM operators, trained over years, were conditioned to prioritize any target that emitted. A signal meant a command node, a reconnaissance platform, a high-value threat. The Ukrainians had weaponized Russian doctrine, turning their attack drones into silent hunters while using decoys broadcasting fake signals to draw the expensive fire. The numbers flashed on the screen. 7 targets, 6 missiles loaded, 12 agonizing minutes for a reload. This was a high-stakes calculus where every launch decision carried the weight of vulnerability. Standard procedure screamed to engage the most obvious threats first, conserving ammunition for follow-up waves. The 2 climbing drones crossed the 35-kilometer threshold, their returns solidifying with every meter of ascent. He made his choice, the 2 climbers and the noisy emitter. 3 critical targets. The launcher shrieked, pivoting violently toward the northwest sky. 3 9 M317M missiles, the Buk's lethal teeth, erupted simultaneously, accelerating to a blistering Mach 4. They soared to 8,000 meters, trading the thick atmosphere of sea level for the thinner air above to maximize their range. Time to impact, 42 seconds. The console drummed the countdown. 40, 30, 20. The first detonation registered at 13:48 hours. The proximity fuse set for maximum effectiveness had triggered at 4 meters distance. The 9 M317M, a 580-kilogram behemoth measuring 5.5 meters, housed a 62-kilogram fragmentation warhead built on a matrix of preformed tungsten cubes. When the fuse fired, the high-density explosive did not create random shrapnel. It drove those tubes outward in a controlled, expanding cone. This focused lethality guaranteed the severance of control surfaces, fuel lines, and structural spars, maximizing the kill probability along the missile's line of sight. Perfect intercepts. The lead climbing drone disintegrated. 8 seconds later, the emitting drone vanished. 2 down. But here was the brutal truth. These were not armed drones. They carried extra fuel, not warheads. Every behavior, every transmission had been meticulously studied and programmed to match the high-priority targets Russia was trained to shoot first. The third missile tracked toward the second climber. Then, a masterful tactical deception. 3 other drones suddenly clustered, flying within 50 meters of each other. Their overlapping radar returns merged into one massive single contact. The missile seeker, drawn to the strongest signal, homed in on the exact center, the empty space where the 3 signatures combined. It detonated between them, the proximity blast rattling all 3 airframes, but destroying nothing. The composite airframes, though battered, held together against the shockwave. Instantly, the 5 remaining drones, now the real threats, scattered, widening their formation across the sky. This was not human adaptation. It was the next line in the program script. Ukrainian mission planners had precisely calculated the SAM intercept time and coded an immediate wide dispersal evasion maneuver to follow. The first Buk operator's line of defense had been breached. He grabbed the secure phone, but the rigid engagement zones meant the automatic handoff to the next battery would be friction-filled, requiring human confirmation. 30 crucial seconds were lost in the confusion. The southern Buk battery had been a frustrated spectator to the disastrous display. 2 decoys destroyed, 5 survivors now spreading across 3 kilometers of sky. The operator faced the impossible choice: fire everything and sit defenseless during the 12-minute reload, or conserve missiles and risk allowing armed drones to slip through. His screen showed the threats descending through 1,000 meters. Doctrine left no time for debate. He brought both illumination channels online. The illuminator, functioning like a searchlight, could only paint one spot at a time. To track 5 targets, it had to timeshare, switching the radar beam between drones every 500 milliseconds. This was the system's Achilles heel. Each switch meant half a second where the missiles flew blind, relying only on a predicted trajectory. Against maneuvering drones, those blind moments compounded into an error margin large enough to miss. The Buk could only guide 4 missiles total. Against 5 targets, someone was getting through. The outermost drones threatened to flank the airfield, 1 north, 1 south. He selected these flanking threats, plus the center drone, launching 3 more missiles in rapid succession. The eastern drone began a terrifying wild dance, climbing 200 meters, diving 300, never holding steady for more than 5 seconds. These weren't reactions to the incoming missile. They were pre-programmed evasions designed to counter the system's time-sharing flaw. In the moment of the beam switch, the maneuvering drone could move 25 meters. The fire control computer, predicting straight-line motion during the gap, found itself constantly correcting, wasting fuel, and degrading the missile's trajectory. The western drone descended steadily to 500 meters, aiming for the ground clutter where radar returns become contaminated noise. The center drone dove hardest, vanishing entirely below the radar horizon at 200 meters. The operator could only trust the long-range S-300 battery behind him. The western missile found its mark, another decoy, eliminated in a spectacular fireball of fuel. The eastern missile, however, struggled, its seeker hunting empty air where the computer expected the target to be. A close detonation, but no destruction. 4 UJ-26s survived. All were carrying warheads. All were below 500 meters. All were just 60 kilometers from Kursk. They had passed the Buk's layered defense, the easy part. Now, the final layer. The S-300. For 12 minutes, the S-300 operator had been a frustrated spectator, his stomach tightening with every failed intercept. His 64N6 Big Bird radar painted the entire battle space, airliners, helicopters, even migrating birds. But only 4 contacts mattered. The drones that had survived 2 batteries and kept pushing. The drones flew at 800 meters, following the M18 highway, correcting their inertial dead reckoning with optical landmarks. The navigation system used edge detection algorithms, the sharp contrast of asphalt against dirt, the unique geometry of a reservoir's dam. With no emissions to detect, their path was silent and precise. The operator selected the highway follower and initiated the engagement. His 48 N6 missiles were engineered to vaporize supersonic, high-altitude threats like B-52s at 200 kilometers, not to chase slow-moving lawnmowers at treetop height. This massive design difference exposed a critical flaw in his fire control computer. The entire system was calibrated for speed and altitude, not for low and slow stealth. The computer software was programmed for high-speed targets. It sampled the target's position every 100 milliseconds, but only updated the missile guidance every 500 milliseconds. For an 800 km/h cruise missile, that 111-meter positional change between samples was easily manageable. But for a 180 km/h drone, the position change was only 5 meters. The algorithm, expecting massive velocity, interpreted this minuscule shift as sensor noise and filtered it out, effectively making the drone invisible to proper tracking. The software expected a blur. It received a crawl, and the algorithms broke down completely. It was like using a high-powered sniper scope to aim at your own feet. Still, the launcher elevated, nearly vertical. The missile executed a gravity turn, launch vertical to clear clutter, pitch over to trade vertical speed for horizontal distance, motor cut at 30 kilometers altitude, and coast to apogee. It became a perfect ballistic projectile, diving back to Mach 6 for the terminal phase. Beautiful physics, but physics based on a single, fatal assumption, that the target would be where the math predicted in 85 seconds. The entire strategy relied on the drone following one of the established radar masking corridors, the power lines. The railway lines, since the terrain offered no other viable route. Both sides knew the game was timing, not surprise. The drone maintained its course flawlessly, too perfectly. At 40 seconds to impact, it banked hard east, toward the reservoir, a preset waypoint, not evasion. Ukrainian planners had calculated the S-300's engagement distance and programmed the turn to trigger at the moment of peak speed. The missile's computer commanded maximum deflection, but at Mach 6, you don't turn, you curve across kilometers. The intercept point shifted 800 meters behind the drone's actual position. The missile trying to chase bent its trajectory like a fastball trying to hook, its seeker ultimately finding empty air. Before the operator could process the miss, the second visible drone began climbing to 2,000 meters and accelerated to its maximum speed. A perfect, blatant target. He hesitated, it was too obvious, but orders were orders. He fired. Meanwhile, the drone that had dodged the first missile dove to 50 meters and found the high-tension power lines. 330,000 volts generated an electromagnetic storm. Every radar pulse, hitting the steel towers and cables, created hundreds of false returns. The drone's weak signature vanished in this electrical chaos, a whisper loft in a thunderstorm. The climbing drone was bait. It traded its $30,000 cost for a $2 million missile while buying time for its companion to escape. The 48N6 took the bait, finding the high-flying target easily. Proximity fuse at 6 meters. The drone became an expanding cloud of composite fragments. The operator swept his radar across the power lines. Nothing but interference. To the north, 3 low flyers crested a rise momentarily. He launched 2 more missiles at the predicted intercept points, firing blind on mathematical probability. Both found empty sky. The drones had turned immediately after dropping from sight. 4 missiles expended. 1 drone destroyed. 3 armed drones still inbound. The S-300 operator's mission was over. He called Kursk directly. 3 contacts, low altitude, your sector in 6 minutes, all ammunition expended. The airfield, deep in the rear area, was protected only by 1 soldier with a single IGLA-S man-portable air defense system, MANPADS. When the siren wailed at 13:55, the soldier grabbed the IGLA-S. The sound came first, not the shriek of a jet, but the persistent drone of a lawnmower, distinct from any military aircraft. The first Black Cross materialized through the morning haze, 3 meters long, 500 meters up, approaching at highway speed. The IGLA Seeker, designed in the 1970s to find jet engines burning at 800 degrees Celsius, hunted for heat. The drone's small pusher engine ran at a mere 300 degrees Celsius, barely warmer than sun-baked concrete. Its propeller immediately mixed cold air with the weak exhaust, diffusing the signature. The lock tone stuttered in his earpiece. Lock, no lock, partial searching. The Seeker expected a jet against cold sky, but the entire world looked like one warm blur. The IGLA's limitations, born of 1970s technology, were brutally exposed by modern low-heat composite threats. Standing orders were to engage anything unidentified. Against his better judgment, the guard squeezed the trigger. The missile erupted. Its seeker scanned its 40-degree field of view, searching for heat. The drone was flying too low, just another warm object among hundreds of warm runway segments, vehicles, and buildings. The proximity fuse never detected the composite airframe. The missile passed 15 meters below and self-destructed 8 seconds later in a puff of gray smoke. The guard lowered the empty launcher. His single line of defense, the last remaining hope of the airfield, was spent. 3 more dots appeared behind the first, spreading into multiple vectors. The warhead armed at 200 meters, impact at 60 meters per second. It punched through the aluminum like tissue paper, detonating inside the fuel tank. Aviation fuel doesn't explode, it deflagrates, burning subsonically, but generating massive overpressure. The tank split, spraying 120 liters of burning fuel across the revetment. The fireball consumed the Yak-52 in fractions of a second. The second drone, orbiting 5 kilometers north, locked onto a Cessna's high-wing profile against the backdrop of the Inferno. Same calculation, adjust heading, hold altitude, maximum angle dive from 1,000 meters. Impact, 1357. The warhead struck the port wing route, detonating inside the second fuel tank. The wings separated. The fuselage flipped, burning fuel spread across the runway. The tactical damage was minor, but the strategic effect was immense. These two aircraft were the only reliable counter to Ukrainian reconnaissance drones. Without them, Ukrainian ISR could now operate freely, spotting targets for larger strikes. Two destroyed planes meant dozens of future reconnaissance missions would now succeed. The air defense chain had been broken. The mission was complete. If you like deep dive in military, please don't forget like, comment, share, and subscribe for more informative videos. Thanks for watching.